Hey everybody, welcome back to Cajun Chef. Today I have a very special sweet treat for you guys. It's my wife Aunt Patsy's recipe. Very, very delicious chocolate sheet cake. It is very, very rich, very good, and you will not want to miss this episode. I do, however, before I get into it, want to throw a shout out to Fluke Master, Gene Jensen. If you guys have ever seen his YouTube videos, he is a very good fisherman. And his goal is to teach everyone how to fish. And I know I learned a lot from him. And if you like to fish, check out his videos. It's Fluke Master on YouTube. Let's get to making that sheet cake.
Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is add 2 cups of flour. Second, you're going to want to add 2 cups of sugar. Now the flour or the sugar is not packed. I just fill up the cup. Then you can measure it if you want to weigh it out. Let's attach the whisk here. I like to sift it together, just mix it up together a little bit before I add the wet ingredients to it. So let's let that mix and go to the wet ingredients. Start with a small saucepan. Go ahead and add 1 cup of water, 1 stick of butter, and I use Crisco vegetable shortening. It's a 1/2 cup of shortening, and I like to get that heated up to a boil. I don't like to add the cocoa. You will add 3 tablespoons of cocoa, but I wait until after it starts boiling. What I do is I let it boil, then I turn the heat off. And while I'm whisking the cocoa, I remove it from the stove. I remove it from the heat, basically. This is pretty much what you're looking for. Like I said, I just lowered it. So I don't want it to I want it to cook, but only using the residual heat, not continuous heat. See how it mixes up really nice? That's pretty much what I'm going for there. See how it's not clumpy at all? What I'll find is that if I do it when it's cold and then bring everything up to a boil, it gets clumpy. Now we're going to add the wet mixture to the dry mixture, which is the flour and the sugar. We're going to whip or beat or whisk, whatever you want to call it, with the KitchenAid until it looks like it's thoroughly mixed in. Then I go ahead and I add 2 large eggs, a 1/2 cup of buttermilk. I do this a little bit later after I've whisked it together for a little bit because it still is pretty hot and will cook your eggs more than you would like, or at all in general. Now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Without the baking soda, this cake will not rise at all. So you want to make sure you add that. Alright, now that the whisking is coming to a close and you can see that everything's mixed in pretty good, this is pretty much what it should look like. It's going to be a little bit, it pretty much looks exactly like box cake mix looks. But it is a little bit, maybe a little thinner to me. I go ahead, this is my special pan that my Aunt Patsy also gave me. So, well, my wife's Aunt Patsy. But I like to layer the bottom with parchment paper just because it doesn't stick at all. And you can, actually if you wanted to, you could flip the whole thing over and just peel the parchment paper off the bottom. I leave it in there, it makes it easy to cut and serve. Now this is just a standard size baking sheet, but it should fit in there perfectly. Go ahead and bake it for about 25 minutes to start at 350 degrees. While it's baking, about 5 minutes before it's done, I like to start cooking the frosting. And what I do is I add a stick of butter, 4 tablespoons of evaporated milk to start. You're going to go up to 6 depending on the consistency you like, but I do 4. And what I'm going to do is bring that up to a boil. Let's go ahead and add the cocoa as well. Once it starts getting hot, you can see it smoking. So let's add the cocoa to it. Kind of similar to the first one. I like to do it when it's already hot. I don't like to add it when it's cold. But it will mix up. It's going to be runny, but you're pouring it over powdered sugar. So it may not look like enough liquid, but believe me, it is. So here is 2 cups. It calls for 16 ounces of powdered sugar, which is 1 box. But 2 cups, I packed it a little bit just to get a little extra. Now keep in mind, if it is too runny, if it's too thin, you can add more powdered sugar. If it's too thick, you can add a little bit more evaporated milk. Regardless, you'd need 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. You really won't be able to tell if it's too thin or too thick until you're done. So here, I'm going to whisk it together. But I like to keep my spatula handy because that powdered sugar tends to stick to the sides of at least this KitchenAid bowl. So I'll knock it down and make sure it gets incorporated. Let's let it go. Once it's done, see, this is a little bit too thin. So I'm actually going to add a little bit more powdered sugar. Yeah. Stand by 1 second. All right. I got the powdered sugar that was left over. And it's really just it's a visual. So you'll see what consistency you want it to look like, and that's what you're going to go for. So I added probably another 1/4 cup. And you're gonna know it's gonna look like, I mean, look at that. It looks real similar to, the frosting you buy in the stores. But you'll see it'll kind of ooze off. It's a little thinner, but this is kind of like a chocolate glaze that goes on top of a cake. Basically, that powdered sugar is going to really give it like a crystallized feel to it when it dries. Let's go ahead and spread it out. And this is pretty much it. We're going to let this cake sit for about 15 minutes to kind of let everything rest and cool. That frosting spreads a lot easier when it's hotter, when it's warm. So I like to spread the icing over the cake when the cake is warm and when the icing's warm. Look at that. I'm going to cut a piece right now. Yeah, this is definitely one of my family's favorites. They love when I make it. It's delicious. Hopefully you enjoy it as well. But as always, guys, please subscribe, like this video, and I will see you next time. Thank you.